up, potty people, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing a different style of video that I've never done before. Today I'm testing out 5 new drugstore concealers on 5 different days. So you're getting 5 different wear tests, you're seeing how they apply, and then at the end I'll actually be ranking them and giving you my list of like best to worst. Because I feel like there are so many concealers on the market now. I feel like concealers are the new eyeshadow palette. And it's pretty overwhelming because I feel like they all have very similar claims and they're all trying to dupe the same thing. So it's just like you see all these concealers and you don't know where to begin. And I've been trying to figure out a way to review all these concealers I've been testing out recently. And I watched a video from Jessica Braun where she tested out 5 different foundations. And not only did you see how they wore, but you also saw how they applied, and then at the end she ranked hers from best to worst as well. So I really enjoyed that. I'll link that below if you guys want to check that out. And yeah, we're just gonna jump right into it. This video is a little bit longer, so if you like videos like this and if you want to see more in this style, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And also comment below if you do want to see more like it. What should I do next? Should I do foundations, eyeliners, mascaras? Like, I really want to do foundations. I feel like I could do a lot with that. Please subscribe and stick around, join my family. I would love to have you here. I talk about affordable makeup all the time, so I'm really all about like being bougie on a budget. So if you like affordable stuff, then make sure you stick around because there's plenty more where this came from. And please turn that bell on because I've had so many people tell me that they're not seeing my videos in their news feed. So turn that bell on so that you never miss an upload from me. And even if you are someone that is subscribed and you also have your bell on but you're still not seeing me, then unsubscribe, resubscribe, click the bell again, and that kind of resets it from what I've told. So yeah, I'm sorry for the trouble, but YouTube. So yeah, without further ado, if you guys want to see 5 new drugstore concealers in action with a +1 hour wear test, then please keep watching. Alrighty guys, so you'll have to excuse my foundation color. I look like a literal alien because my foundation doesn't match. Thought I was a little darker than what I was, so came as a shock to me too. So our first concealer is the Milani Conceal and Perfect Longwear Concealer. So this runs between $7 and $9 depending on where you find it. Yeah, I've had this for several months actually, but funny story, I really don't pay attention to how things perform when I'm not filming, so we don't know. It says highly pigmented full coverage formula blends seamlessly to fully mask imperfections, hyperpigmentation, discoloration, blah blah blah. It's designed for 12 hours of crease-free, water-resistant wear. Antioxidant-rich formula helps protect skin from environmental damage, and it's paraben-free. So it says key ingredients and benefits. It's got hyaluronic acid. It says it has shea butter and olive fruit oil, which moisturizes and conditions the skin while protecting the moisture barrier, and polyphenols, and cocoa peptides, which help protect the skin. Yeah, there are 18 shades, and they don't go super dark, but I feel like they go fairly dark, but they also don't go very light either. So definitely need some work on their shade range. So I really like the applicator on this. It's not your typical like Tarte Shape Tape giant doe foot applicator. It's more of like a flat, flexible doe foot applicator that's kind of double-sided. So I really like these because I don't know if you can see, but it hugs onto product really, really well. I feel like it really packs on a good amount. So I try to avoid foundation under my eyes just because I don't want the longevity of the foundation to mix in with the longevity of the concealer. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply my normal amount. And by the way, I got the shade 115 Light Nude. And this works for when I have a tan, but I could probably go a little bit lighter. So I'll just go down the center of my face just to add some dimension, but we're really gonna be looking more closely under my eyes to see how it wears, like where I have fine lines and dryness and texture and stuff like that. Okay, so there's one layer, and as you can see, it's pretty opaque, and I love the shade with where I'm at right now today. So yeah, really nice and brightening. I really like the undertone of it. It's kind of neutral, but it also has a slight bit of like a golden aspect to it. So yeah, pretty full coverage right off the bat. I would say it's like a high medium right now. Like I definitely see a little bit of my dark circle action right there, but I mean, it's pretty good coverage right off the bat. But it's a very, very creamy, milky formula. It feels very thin, it's very lightweight, and it does have a hydrating aspect to it. Now, it's not like super hydrating, like it's not dewy or anything. It stays put really, really well under the eyes, and it holds up so much better on me than say like the Tarte Shape Tape, which is super mattifying and just way too dry for me. I'm gonna go in, which is a little bit more, just right there in that area where I have some dark circle action. I'm just gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing and just build up the coverage right there. And you guys could probably see this blends out like nobody's business. Like it's super fast to blend. It just sinks into the skin extremely well, and I mean, there's barely any work to be done. So I will be using the same setting powders every day that I test these concealers. So for my under eye area, I'm gonna be using the NYX HD powder in the shade Banana. So I'm just gonna go ahead and set this, and then we will get our time. So here's what it looks like, and hopefully you guys can see. Hopefully it's not like too dark or anything, but it's just so smooth. It's not enhancing the dryness or the texture under my eyes. I have little like speckled dots like right here. I feel like a lot of people have that, but it doesn't sit weirdly in those areas. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and go off camera and finish up the rest of my face, and I don't really feel like there's a need to come back and show you what it looks like because that's not what the video is about. So we're gonna say 110 for our check-in time. I technically got done at like 105, but we're just gonna say an even 110. So yeah, I will see you guys at our final check-in. All right, party people, so I'm back my final check-in of the night, or should I say check out of the night, with Milani concealer. So it is a little past 10:20 right now. So this has been on for more than 9 hours. So yeah, I feel like a 9-hour wear test, more than I hoped for. So I feel like it looks really, really good to have been on for 9 hours. I have a lot of concealers that don't look this good after like 4 or 5 hours. So it's definitely very long wearing. So unless you're getting super, super up close, like I'm about to do in just a second, I feel like it still looks very milky, very smooth. There is some minor creasing into my fine lines, but I'm an adult, I have fine lines, it's gonna happen, and you don't really see it unless I like pull the skin down. It doesn't look overly powdery or cakey or thick. It feels very thin and just very lightweight under the eyes. So yeah, that is it for concealer number 1. So let's go ahead and move on to day 2. So for concealer number 2, we were talking about the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Hydrate Radiance Concealer. So this is actually brand new, and this is $10 on the Ulta website. There are 16 shades. The shades don't go super light or super dark. I feel like if you're someone that wants to use this just for your under eye area, which I feel like most people are at that point where they just use concealers for their under eye area, I feel like most people will be able to find their shade, but could be better. So it says it is specifically formulated to suit every skin type and tone, but is particularly beneficial for dry skin. Definitely isn't suitable for every skin tone. I don't know. They haven't seen many people, I guess. With hyaluronic acid, it offers all day long radiance and glow without settling into fine lines or clinging to dry patches. But it is very similar to Tarte Shape Tape, where it's that giant doe foot applicator, has a lot of product in the little divot. Really like that aspect about it. So I got the shade C3, and this is actually a pretty good shade for me. So yeah, same thing as yesterday. I didn't put any foundation around the immediate eye area. I did put a little bit like out through here by accident, but like right around here where it matters, I didn't. So we're just gonna go ahead and go in and do the jig, do the little thing. I've been testing this for about 2 weeks now, and have I been paying super close attention again? No, but I have a pretty good idea of what I think about this. So I'm gonna go ahead and blend this out, and I really like this color for my skin tone right now. It's bright, but it's not too bright. So as you can see, it blends out really fast. It's not sticky. It's definitely a different formula than the original Conceal. I gotta figure out what's that other concealer called? The Conceal and Define Full Coverage Concealer. So yeah, that one is okay. It is very similar to Tarte Shape Tape, and I don't like Tarte Shape Tape, so the fact that it is a pretty close alternative or a dupe, I don't really like that one all that much. I'm an adult, I have fine lines, I just can't handle anything that's too super drying under my eyes. I ain't 14 anymore. Okay, so there's one layer of the concealer, and as you can see, that blended out really, really well. It looks very nice under the eyes so far. I just realized I only put one earring back in whenever I turn the camera on, so classy. I do want to go in and build up the coverage a little bit just to see how well it builds in layers, because I always like to test that with coverage type products. Like I want to see, do they get cakey? Do they start looking heavy? So I'm just going to go in and just add a little bit more right here where, I mean, I don't know why I've got dark circles. I sleep like 11 hours every night. So I'm just gonna do the exact same thing, do a little bouncy bounce. There's a second layer, and I definitely feel like I got better coverage out of that. So I would say now we're definitely at full coverage. So I would say first layer is like medium coverage. I'm gonna go with that same powder that I used yesterday, that NYX HD Banana Powder. And this will kind of tone it down a little bit, which I ain't the happiest about, but I really like how this sits under the eyes. It definitely doesn't dry to be a matte finish. I forgot to mention that. It's definitely more of, not a dewy finish, but it's just a hydrated, satiny finish. It's very like skin-like. So I'm gonna say 2 o'clock for my check-in time, but technically now, like after we powdered and stuff, it's 2:04. So we're just gonna say 2 o'clock. So I'm gonna go ahead and go off camera and finish up the rest of my face. I may come back today and show you what the rest of the face looks like, just so you can see what the concealer looks like when it's fresh. I probably should have done that yesterday. Alrighty, party people, so this is what it looks like with a full face. Again, looks very, very smooth. I mean, everything just looks so flawless. Like the under eye area looks so good. And I will see you guys tonight at our final check-in. Alrighty guys, so I'm back for my final check-in with the Makeup Revolution Concealer. So it is now 10:32 p.m. So this has been an 8-hour wear test. So I like how this one wore as well. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of that Milani concealer, just in the way it wears, the way it looks, throughout the day. I will say this one may have creased just a tad bit more, but literally so minute, like it really doesn't even matter. But it hasn't emphasized the dryness under my eyes or the little textures. Like I have a little bumpy texture like right here around my dark circle area. It hasn't emphasized that. So I feel like this hyaluronic acid and these formulas for concealers, I feel like it really does help. But yeah, I'm really impressed with this one. That is it for day 2 testing. So I will see you guys on the next one to test out concealer number 3. All right, time for new concealer number 3. This is the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop concealer. This is about $8.50 depending on where you find it. It's $8.50 at Ulta, and I also see it at my local Walmart. So this has a big old long description. So basically just like key benefits: wears for up to 24 hours, full coverage with a matte finish, non-transfer, waterproof formula made for all skin types and complexions, cruelty-free, and vegan formula. So there are 24 shades. That is amazing, and it looks like it goes really light and pretty dark. I have the shade Vanilla. So this one is just a tad bit darker. Like, I mean, I do have a slightly darker foundation right now, so it may be okay, but typically this is just a tad bit darker than what I normally like. So here's what the applicator looks like. So it's not your typical doe foot, and it's also not what we've been seeing lately with like the Tarte Shape Tape giant doe foot applicator type thing. Like, it has a slight angle to it, which I do like. It's not super flexible. I could do a different applicator. Like, it kind of, you have to like dip in for more if you're someone that likes a good amount of coverage and a good amount of like product lay down. So compared to the other 2 concealers, this one definitely doesn't blend out as easily. There is a little bit of stiffness to it, so that could be where it's more of a matte finish, but it definitely starts adhering and starts drying down a lot faster than those other 2, so it's definitely not as forgiving. So I probably wouldn't do what I did and like lay it all down and then go in and blend it. I would probably work one section at a time. So there's what the first layer looks like. I'm definitely gonna have to go back in and build up a little bit because I wouldn't call this full coverage right off the bat. But I have been sitting here for a while with my foundation on, and it's almost like the concealer starts, like it started disrupting the foundation a little bit when it comes to blending it around my cheek area where it met the foundation. So I'm gonna go in and just touch up just a little bit right here. And I just did what I said you shouldn't do, and I didn't work one section at a time. I'm so dumb. So yeah, there's a second layer, and that blended out really well. I definitely didn't have any problems with it that time. Like it layered really well on itself. And I do feel like I got full coverage. Like it built up very fast. The applicator is kind of fuzzy, so it kind of dries out the formula a little bit. It's already more of a dry matte formula. Not as drying as like Tarte Shape Tape, but I feel like fuzzy textured applicators like this that don't have a lot of movement, they do tend to kind of suck up any kind of luminosity or, you know, creaminess of a formula. Now I'm gonna go into my NYX HD Banana Powder, and we're gonna set just like usual. The time is 10:50 a.m. right now. So we're gonna say 11 o'clock for our check-in time. So I'm gonna go ahead and go off camera and finish up the rest of my face and my eyes, and I'll come back and show you guys the finished look and show you up close. So yeah, the concealer looks really good, looks very smooth. I feel like I'm saying the same thing about every concealer. Concealers are done really well nowadays. Like I feel like they're all relatively pretty good and isn't emphasizing dryness, because like I said, I have a little bumpy texture right here, and my under eye area is typically more dry, but it's not emphasizing that right now. So yeah, 11 o'clock is our check-in time, so I will see you guys at the end of the day to conclude my thoughts. Alrighty guys, it is time for my checkout with the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop concealer. It is now 9:11 p.m. so our check-in time was 11 a.m. so over 10-hour wear test. So let's zoom in and take a look at what we see. So it definitely is more drying and mattifying than the other 2 concealers, but keep in mind, it's supposed to be a matte finish. The other 2 don't claim to be mattifying whatsoever. So, I mean, this concealer does hold up to its claims. It's supposed to be long wearing and mattifying, and with a mattifying formula, it is going to be a tad bit more drying. It did very slightly, and I mean oh so minorly, emphasize just a little bit of that dry, bumpy texture that I have like right here in the inner portion of my under eye area. But yeah, as far as longevity goes, I feel like it's super long lasting. I don't really feel like the coverage faded. It held up really well. And again, it's been a 10-hour wear day. It's not gonna look as fresh as what it did whenever I first applied it. That's obvious. And as far as creasing goes, it is very minor, if any at all. Like I honestly, I think what I'm looking at is just my fine lines. Like I don't think it actually creased. So it's kind of one of those like give or take kind of things. Like choose your poison. Like yes, it's more mattifying and drying, but it's also got really good staying power and it doesn't crease. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next wear test to test out concealer number 4. Alrighty guys, it's time to test out concealer number 4, and today we're testing out the Covergirl Trublend Undercover Concealer. So the price of this varies very heavily depending on wherever you find it. And usually it's only like a $1 or $2 difference between, like, say Walmart and Ulta, but at Ulta it's $12 and at Walmart it's like $8. And it's also $8 on Amazon too. So at Ulta they only have 14 shades, and at Walmart and on Amazon they have all 30 shades. So that kind of blew my mind, because whenever I first went to the Ulta website I was just like, okay, why are there like 2 shades? And then I went to the Covergirl website and saw that there were 30, and I started doing some investigating, and I was just like, oh my god, Ulta is just so ridiculous. So it says, full coverage matte finish, conceals all imperfections, easy to blend, no caking or cracking, lasts all day, and is a vegan and cruelty-free formula. So they have their shade range broken down into light, medium, tan, and deep, and it looks like there's a fairly good spectrum of shades. Like, I feel like the majority of people will be able to find their shades. They actually say that 99% of skin tones are matched. I don't know about that, but I will say from one shade to the next, there's not a big difference, like in undertone and in depth. So from light to tan, there's a lot of redundancy. I like to see each shade being completely different, like to appeal to a different skin tone, to a different depth. I don't like to have to go in and be like, oh, I could pick between these 5 shades. Which one do I choose? I will say, whenever I was looking at the shades in store, they all looked very cool tone, like very peachy or very pink, which I don't like. I don't think that appeals to a lot of people at all. I have 2 here, and to me they look the exact same. Like, there's very little difference between the 2. I decided to go Classic Ivory, which is the most neutral, but it still has a little bit of a cool tone aspect to it as well. But in the end, it does look okay. Like, it looks like any other concealer once I blend it out and get everything done. But it does have that same doe foot applicator as like Tarte Shape Tape. I feel like all these concealers are doing the exact same thing nowadays. So usually this is a pretty creamy and, you know, a fairly hydrating concealer on me. I wouldn't have even considered it to be a matte finish, but yesterday I wore it with a matte foundation, like a super mattifying foundation. And I feel like it completely changed the consistency and the formula of this concealer, because I mean, usually this concealer, like I said, it's pretty creamy. Like, it's not super drying or anything, which I do like. But with that foundation that I wore yesterday, because I actually started filming this video yesterday, and I was just like, you know what, that foundation's completely throwing it off. I don't like it. It's not what I normally wear. So I decided to refilm. Yeah, there's the concealer blended out for 1 layer. It's pretty full coverage. I wouldn't say super full coverage. Like, all I've got to do is just build it up a little bit right in there. But I would say a high medium coverage right off the bat. So I'm going to go in and build it up just like I always have. And a lot of you guys may be thinking, God, you put on a lot of concealer. But as I've said, I like to test out a product's like layerability. You know, how does it layer? Does it get thick and cakey? Does it actually build up coverage? I feel like that's stuff that you need to test out for reviews like this. But as you can see, I mean, automatically full coverage right there. I'm just going to do what I always do. I'm going to go in with my NYX HD Banana Powder. Alright guys, so I'm back with the finished look. And before I left, I forgot to show you the time of when I got done applying the concealer. So right now, it's 12:45. But I'm going to say 12:30 for our check-in time, because it was right around 12:30 whenever I got done applying the powder and the concealer and all that. So it looks really smooth, really nice, and I feel like I've said the exact same thing about every concealer. I just feel like concealers have really stepped up their game. Like, I haven't really tried a bad concealer lately. Like, I feel like all the newer formulas are equally pretty good. I will say with this one, I do notice my fine lines a little bit more. Not that it's more mattifying, because like I said, it is a pretty creamy formula. I just feel like this settles faster than the other ones. Like, I don't know if that's, yeah, it kind of looks like the concealer's cracking and settling into my fine lines already. It still looks good right now. I mean, I really have no complaints. That's just me being really nitpicky and really trying to give you all of my observations. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys at the end of the night to do my final checkout. Okay, I just had to wake up from a nap to do this video, so I'm a little tired looking, but it is time for my final checkout with the Covergirl concealer. It is now a little past 9:30. It's 9:34, so we made it right to 9 hours. Yay! Why do all these concealers look really good? This is crazy. All right, so I will say, surprisingly enough, even though this is more of a creamy formula, I don't see any creasing today. I see like black residue right here. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, I don't really see much creasing. I mean, kind of the same thing as the other concealers that I talked about. Like, when I pull it down, I see very minor creasing, but that's just my fine lines. Like, I'm seeing it more whenever I pull the skin down, just because that's my fine lines being stretched out. But really my biggest issue today, and again, me taking a nap could have had something to do with it, but it looks kind of dry and powdery right through here, and it's kind of emphasizing that little bumpy texture that I have, like right where my dark circles are, like right where that little crevice, like that socket of my eye is. Again, it could be where I took a nap. That is going to make your skin more dry and more like so that is it for the Covergirl concealer test. So I will see you guys in the next one to test out our 5th and final concealer. Alrighty guys, so it's time to test out my 5th and final concealer, and you may have to ignore my lighting today. I'm not sure how it's picking up on camera. It's 9 o'clock in the morning right now, so it's super sunny outside, like the sun is directly outside my window, so it's really orange and like really warm in here, so hopefully lighting's okay. But today's concealer is one that I've been testing out for a while now. It's relatively new, but I've never actually given a thorough review of it. Like, I've used it and I've been testing it for a really long time, but I've never actually talked about it in depth. So I figured I'd throw it in the battle and see how it compares to everything else. But that is the e.l.f. 16 Hour Camo Concealer. So this is $6 wherever you can find it. So the e.l.f. website, Ulta, Walmart, places like that. So it says, a full coverage 16-hour wear concealer featuring a large doe foot applicator to conceal, correct, contour, and highlight for flawless skin. The highly pigmented formula is lightweight, dries matte, and won't set onto fine lines or creases, and is ideal for all skin types. So there are only 18 shades, but I feel like the spectrum is actually pretty inclusive. Like, it goes really fair to really dark. And unlike the Covergirl concealer where shade 2 through 10 are the exact same, each shade in this range is pretty different. Like, each shade's a different undertone, a different depth. So although 18 isn't the most impressive number in today's beauty world, I feel like the shade range is actually pretty inclusive. But just like it says in the description, it does have a large doe foot applicator, just like Tarte Shape Tape. I mean, it's pretty obvious that that's what it's trying to mimic. So I go between 2 shades. So I have Fair Warm, and this is probably the lightest concealer I have in my collection. This is super, super porcelain. So that's why I was saying, like, this isn't even the lightest shade. Like, this is the, I think this is the second lightest. Yeah, so Fair Warm is the second lightest. And then I have Light Sand, which is the 4th lightest. So they call this a light with neutral undertones. And this is probably more my speed. I'll probably use this one today. So I do want to swatch these so you can see what they look like side by side and just to see the jump from shade 2 to shade 4. So on top is Light Sand and on bottom is Fair Warm. So yeah, Fair Warm almost looks like a white on my skin tone. But yeah, this is a very, very good brightening shade. I do like to use it. I like to mix it in with other concealers. But yeah, I mean, shade 2 to shade 4, pretty big jump. But I'm gonna go ahead and put on Light Sand. All right, so there's a first layer. So a little bit does go a very, very long way with this. So whenever you first start off using this, use a very small amount and then just kind of get used to it, figure out how much you need, like what kind of coverage you want, and then add more as you go. Actually, I'm gonna take a little bit of that Fair Warm just to brighten it up a little bit, because I do know that with that NYX HG Banana Powder, it's gonna darken it a little bit. So I'm gonna go in with just a little bit of Fair Warm in those areas, just like a little dot. And as you can see, 1 dot does a lot. All right, so there's about 2 layers, 1.5, 2 layers of the concealer. So this does set down to be a matte finish, but it's not as drying as Tarte Shape Tape. I know, once again, we're comparing everything to Tarte Shape Tape. I just feel like a lot of these concealers are trying to dupe Tarte Shape Tape. I mean, especially when they make it as obvious as this. I have it sitting here for a few minutes, and even though I haven't powdered yet, it hasn't started creasing or anything. And with most concealers, that would have already started happening. So I feel like that does say a lot. All right, so everything is set. So we're gonna say 9:30 for our check-in time. So it's 9:27 right now. Alrighty guys, so I'm back. The rest of my face and everything that I'm wearing will be linked under concealer number 5, day 5, something like that. We are not having a good skin day once again. If you look in the description box at the product details for what I'm wearing right now, there's going to be multiples of everything. Multiple foundations, multiple blushes, highlight. It's not because I'm just trying to be bougie and just, oh, let me just mix all these together because I'm so rich. It's literally because I couldn't get anything to look good, and there's nothing I can do about it, which kills me, but I digress. But as far as the concealer goes, I mean, it looks really good, super smooth. I'm running out of adjectives to describe these things. This is by far the most full coverage concealer that I've tested in this video, and actually probably the most full coverage concealer in my collection. It is so opaque, and where it's so full coverage and so pigmented, it just looks so creamy, and just, it makes your whole face look bright, and it makes your eyes look more open. It cancels out everything. Talk about cancel culture. This concealer is definitely cancel culture in a tube. It's not creasing, it doesn't look dry. I have no complaints. Like, it just looks airbrushed. Alright guys, so it's time to do our final check-in with our final concealer. It is now 5:47 p.m. Our check-in time was 9:30 a.m., so a little past 8 hours. Alright, so let's bring her on in and see what we see. So, oh my god, I am not having a good makeup day at all. Usually this concealer looks flawless all day long. From the time that I put it on until the time that I take it off. It doesn't crease, it doesn't fade, like, it holds up so beautifully every other time that I've tested it. However, today I'm seeing some dryness. Today I'm seeing, it's kind of giving me that makeup-y look. It does look kind of dry, it looks a little powdery, and it looks kind of patchy. in this area right here, like around my inner corner, like around my socket. And also where the concealer meets up with the foundation, it's not meshing very well. I've never seen this before. Maybe that's just how it's performing in the wintertime. Maybe this is just gonna be better for me during the summer when I'm more oily. But as far as creasing goes, very, very minimal, but at the same time, it's worse than what I've seen before. I did my ranking and everything at this point. Like I did my ranking in the middle of the day today because I've been testing this concealer out for so long. I didn't feel like I needed to wait until after I did this section of it. And maybe it's just my skin. Maybe it's just where my skin's getting more dry, or maybe it's my hormones. Like I got a lot of skin issues happening right now, like a lot of stuff that's just kind of combating all my favorites. Hi. New day, obviously. Today is the day after I filmed the e.l.f. concealer test. So today I'm performing a second day wear test of that concealer because, as you could see, threw me a curveball. So I'm doing this for a couple different reasons. Number one, I'm trying to figure out, was yesterday just a bad skin day, just a bad makeup day, or did I apply incorrectly? Like, did I apply too much? Did it just not work very well with the products I used? And then also last night I started getting busy. I started cleaning. My husband came home, started cooking. It completely slipped my mind and I forgot to get up close and like do an up close look for the end of the day wear test. And I didn't want anyone to think that I was doing that on purpose because I didn't like the outcome or something. So today I'm doing another 8-hour wear test so I can do the up close look. So I didn't film myself applying or do anything like that today just because I feel like this video is already long enough as it is and you already saw how it applied. So you're just gonna have to take my word on it, but it was exactly 11:11 whenever I got done applying the concealer and then also applying a powder. So I can show you what time it is now. I mean, that doesn't really mean anything. Like it's 12:07 p.m. right now. And as you can see, it's a different day. Today's Wednesday. Yesterday I filmed, it was Tuesday. So yeah, I'm really trying to put off refilming that ranking section because I feel like it's not fair to completely change my rank just because of one day's wear test, you know? But it also doesn't look very... It looks kind of weird that I put something so high that didn't perform very well in this video. So my hypothesis about why it performed the way it did yesterday is because I think I applied too much product. I don't think this is one of those concealers that you really need to layer a whole lot because I don't think it's very layerable. The reason I did that, and I didn't really mean to, is because whenever I'm filming and I start applying something, I start talking, sometimes I have to go back and repeat what I said because I didn't like how I worded it or something. So what I did yesterday, I realized was that I applied a little bit, started saying something, and then, you know, to get the shot again, I went back and applied some more and repeated what I said in a different way. So I applied quite a bit of concealer. And then I'm also thinking that maybe it just didn't work very well with that powder. I've used that powder for everything though. Like I've used that powder for years. It's been one of my favorite products, but there are some products that just don't work very well with pressed products. Like maybe it works well with loose powder. So today I did use a loose powder instead of that NYX powder. And also, you know, in this video, whenever I'm applying the foundation, as I said, I haven't been bringing it up to meet my under eye area because I didn't want the performance of the foundation to affect the performance of the concealer. I feel like maybe it's just because it was a different finish because I used a glowy foundation and this is a matte concealer. So maybe where I didn't bring it up all the way, it just, like, the border of the two just didn't really mesh. So I brought the foundation all the way up and I really try to moisturize my skin properly today. Okay, so I'm gonna stop rambling now. So I'm gonna see you guys around 7 o'clock tonight to do my final check-in for day 2. Alrighty guys, we're gonna try and make this a quick one. It is now 7:31, so we're a little over the 8-hour mark. So I come bearing good news. We don't have all the bad issues that we saw yesterday, thank God. So yeah, something I did yesterday just didn't mesh very well with the concealer. Maybe we can just chalk it up as just a bad skin day, bad makeup day. As far as creasing goes, very, very minimal, very realistic amount. I mean, this is pretty normal for not only just this concealer, but also just my under eye area in general. But I mean, it definitely doesn't look as drying and cakey and powdery. It didn't do that like splotchy and weird thing that it did yesterday around the socket of my eye, and it didn't do that thing where like wherever it meets with the foundation, it caked up and like did like a powdery thing. But I will say this is probably going to be one that I would like to mix with other concealers. So I would like to mix this with maybe like the Makeup Revolution concealer or the Milani one. I think this would be a lot better for me personally in the wintertime for my dry or under eye if I mix it in with a more hydrating concealer. So that way I get the best of both worlds. So I don't know if one bad wear day is enough for me to re-rank these and rearrange my order, so we shall see. So stay tuned, that's coming up right now. Alrighty, it's time to rank these bad boys. So how I'm gonna do it is rank it from worst to best. So I'm gonna start at 5 being my least favorite, and then go to 1 one being my favorite. So let's start with concealer number 5, my least favorite, and that is the Covergirl Trublend. There's just something about this one that I can't really put my finger on it. I just don't prefer it. Like whenever I'm getting into my concealer drawer to pull one out, I don't like to gravitate towards this. I don't enjoy wearing it for some reason. I don't like the shade range of this one. They're all way too cool tone. There's not enough differentiation from one shade to the next. The day that I tested it for the video, I did have a pretty good wear test with it. It looked really good by the end of the day. Very, very minimal creasing. It did slightly age me. It kind of looked a little bit, you know, a little bit dry, a little bit powdery, but overall it looked pretty good. But I think my thing is, there are so many new drugstore concealers and so many good ones. I'm looking for a standout product. Like I'm looking for something that outperforms everything else. It's not a bad product. Like it's not a bad concealer. It just doesn't outperform my other favorites. So for me, this one's number 5. And then concealer number 4, my fourth favorite, however you want to look at it, is the NYX Can't Stop, Won't Stop Concealer. And again, this one works really well. Like I enjoy this one. I just don't enjoy it as much as the other ones. And I just don't like the applicator on this. Like the applicator is what throws it off for me. This one is just too fluffy and too fuzzy, and I feel like I have to use more product than what's really needed. But whenever I wear it, I have no wear issues whatsoever. Like you guys saw, by the end of the day, I didn't have coverage fading. I didn't have creasing. Like there was almost zero creasing with this, which there are very few concealers that I've tried that there's just zero creasing into my fine lines. But this one is more mattifying, so I feel like this won't be as good for me whenever my skin starts getting more dry. And I feel like this is going to be better for me in the summertime or whenever I'm just more oily. So if you have dry skin, like a really dry under eye, don't know how well this would work for you, but if you have oily skin, I think this would be a gem, especially if you're someone that likes to use concealers for like covering blemishes. Hi, day 2 me again. So if you're seeing this refilming of the rank section, then that would mean that today's part 2 e.l.f. concealer wear test didn't go very well, because initially I had e.l.f. at number 2 because, as I've said, I've had such a good time with it. Like I've had so much success with it and I've loved it ever since I started trying it. But as I said, all of these are relatively good and I have to be nitpicky. So to do that, I had to start thinking, okay, what's gonna work best for me all year round? Not just with a certain skin type or, you know, for a certain season or certain products, but what's the most flexible and forgiving formula that will consistently work for me all year round? 4 and 5 will stay the same, but that would mean that number 3 is now the e.l.f. 16 Hour Camo Concealer. And again, I feel really bad for moving it down on the list because our 2 bad wear days versus months and months of good wear days, is that bad enough to make it not close to the top? You know, things happen. Like, these formulas aren't bulletproof. I still stand by the fact that you don't need a lot with this. Honestly, just a couple of dots, if that. It blends out really well. You do have to work slightly fast with it, especially if you've been sitting there for a while, because it's not one of those textures where you can let the first layer dry and then go in for a second layer and build it up really well. It's definitely one that once it dries and sets, you need to be done. So do what you need to do with it whenever it's wet. You may even want to work one section at a time instead of doing what I did and applying it everywhere. So I still love it. I will still cherish it and continue to use it. I just have to be a little more leery with it. Like I can't trust it as much as I used to. So for that reason, it's now number 3. Which brings me to spot number 2, which is now the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Hydrate. And honestly, I did feel kind of bad whenever I was editing and, you know, going through the footage and seeing how it wore and how it applied and all that. I did feel kind of bad for not putting it at number 2 originally, but I hadn't tested it as long as the e.l.f. concealer. So I haven't put it through as much testing, but it just looked so beautiful. And even though there was minimal creasing with it, it was just like, I was okay with it because it was still a very long wear day, and usually I don't even wear my makeup for that long, but it just looks so like breathable and skin-like and just light on the under eye area, and it doesn't look cakey or powdery or dry. That hyaluronic acid, I think, is such a beneficial ingredient in these concealers, and I feel like this is one that you don't have to worry about, you know, only applying a little dot like the e.l.f. concealer. Like I feel like this one you can be more liberal with it. You don't have to worry about it getting cakey or heavy or thick or like makeup-y. This is just a very forgiving formula. So because of that, it now made its way to spot number 2. Which brings me to my MVP, my number 1, the Milani Conceal and Perfect. I truly feel like this is one that I can trust. I don't have to worry about applying too much or it slipping off and fading and, you know, creasing a whole lot. Like, this is one that's super forgiving, and I truly feel like I won't have any problems with it no matter what skin type I am. But I just feel like it's such a high quality formula. It builds up really nicely. It blends out like a dream. I have no problems with that. It's not one that sets too fast where you have to work, you know, like Speedy Gonzalez with it. You definitely do have to set it. I do say that because it is more hydrating, but it's not like a slippery hydration. Like, It provides a perfect amount of hydration, and I truly feel like this will work for me all year round. But something that I noticed whenever I was editing the footage and watching all of it back is that at the end of the wear test with Milani concealer, it just didn't look that good on camera. But the thing is, this looks good in person. And you know, lighting has a lot to do with it. I didn't turn my ring light on that night. I usually don't whenever it's nighttime, just because it makes everything look really green and washes me out and whatnot. But in person, I just feel like it looked so skin-like and breathable. It didn't look cakey or powdery. I love the applicator on it. I could probably go for a lighter shade, so I may get that at some point. But I mean, whenever thinking about a product that outperforms everything else and just stands out in a crowd, this one did, and that's why it's number one. So that is it for my new drugstore concealer battle. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it helpful. Hopefully it helps you make a decision in picking out which one would work best for you. Once again, if you want to see more videos like this, then make sure you give it a thumbs up and comment below which products you want to see me test out in this style. So which products you want to see me compare and do a little wear test with, so leave that down there in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Mwah.